this episode of Let's Talk 716 Sports. My special guest is Glenn Parker, and we will be talking Buffalo Bills football. Tell me how it felt playing for the Bills in the 90s.
Well, Ron, first off, playing professional football is a dream of every kid. It's a dream of everybody that ever starts to put on pads. And even the fans in the stands have that dream that they could do it too. And that's what makes being a professional athlete incredible, is that you have a bond that everybody kind of feels the same, like you're living in a dream, that you're living your dream. I, as a kid, grew up a big football fan, a big basketball fan, always saw myself playing. And then when I quit sports, when I was about 14 or 15, because I was too immature, it's not like I gave up that dream. I just put it aside. And so when I went back out for football when I was 20, I had a coach that said, hey, well, if you're thinking about getting a college scholarship because you've never played the football, why don't you dream big and go for the NFL? And I kind of thought he was making fun of me. And in reality, he was inspiring me, and he was telling me, listen, nothing works without the big goal. You have the big goal, and then you go in filling in all the gaps to get there. And then you never know what will happen along the way. And so that's kind of how it happened for me. And so when I went and did that, by the time I got to the NFL, it was a dream fulfilled, but it was also something I'd had in my mind for the last few years. And so, to be there on the field, people like to say because they're heroes, you don't think of players on the field. I can only remember one time that I was on the field where I was like, whoa, that guy, that's one of my heroes, other than meeting ex-players on the field, because nobody that I played with was my hero. One guy, as I said, only one guy, but all the rest, when you walk in that locker room, you're one of equals, you do your job, you meet people all the time, but then once in a while on the sidelines, you meet one of the greats. And those are the guys you watched growing up. And those are your heroes. So that's pretty incredible. Even when you do your first Monday night football game, yeah, it feels great, but you've got a job to do, but it's that dream. It's that dream realized. So it's pretty neat. What it really hit me, I guess, more than any is when I walked in. Unfortunately, it was not with the Bills. It was the Chiefs. After the Bills had let me go, I walked in and I played with Marcus Allen. And I got to share a locker room with Marcus Allen, be on equal footing with Marcus Allen. And Marcus Allen was a guy that I watched in college when I was in high school. And actually prior to high school, in middle school, I watched him in college. I watched him when I was in high school. And then when he was in the NFL, I watched him in high school. I watched him all through college. He was on my favorite team. I was a Raider fan. And I watched him all the way till the time. And here I am in the NFL. He's still playing. And I got to share a locker room with him. And of all the Hall of Famers I've ever been around, Marcus was one of those guys that when you think of Hall of Fame, everything about Marcus is Hall of Fame. He was a hero of mine as a kid. He was a friend and coworker, and he lived up to every bit of the hype I had in my mind prior to getting in the NFL, and that's pretty special. So how's it feel playing on the teams of the 90s? It was amazing. It was a dream fulfilled. We had a great bond. We were a lot of fun out there, and we won a lot of games because we had a great coaching staff, and we had a core group that stuck through those 4 big years that we were together and knew what we were doing.
Were you like part of the team with Jim Kelly and Marv Levy?
Yes, I was on all 4 of those Super Bowl teams, and I was on my first 7 years were 90 through 96. So I was a part of all 4 Super Bowls. The first one was my rookie year, and I started all of preseason at left tackle because Will Wolford was holding out, and then I started a few games my rookie year and a bunch more the next. I played in every game. I played a ton of snaps the whole year. I actually met all my incentives for play time. Meaning that I played 60 or 70% of the snaps. I just didn't start. I didn't start as many games, and then after that, I was a full-time starter the rest of my career.
How is football different from the 90s?
It is a soft league. Of course, they changed the rules a lot to protect guys. They don't hit hard. They don't finish plays. They don't. It's not nearly as complicated in some ways. They've dumbed the game down because college and high school got dumbed down, and because in order to get guys that can play at that level, it takes too much coaching. And so when you watch the guys today, particularly on the line, on the offensive line and other positions, don't know as much as they did when we played. And they're certainly not as physical. They are fast, they are athletic, but they're not as physical. Where they see a target, they come along and hit the target. Where we saw a target, we came along and tried to put the target in the hospital. And not that we hated the guy, it was just that was the way the game was played. The game was played tough, played mean, no holds barred if you could get away with it, and you still respected your opponent. And I'll back that up. There's a lot of people in Buffalo right now that don't want the Bills to get Gronkowski because of that dirty hit on Tre'Davious or on White. If I had that mentality, most of my teammates by my last 5 years I wouldn't have played with. They'd all had dirty hits on me because I was the Bills and I went to the Chiefs. And of course, when I was with the Bills, we played the Chiefs all the time. When I went to the Chiefs, we played the Raiders. Well, of course, I played the Raiders the whole time. Then I got to the Giants. Of course, we'd play the Giants. We played all those teams. If you have that mentality as a player, you'd never play. That's the nature of the game. It's what you do. You play to win the game, any means possible, short of injuring your opponent. You don't want to injure him. You don't want to take him out. You don't want to end his career. Well, what you want to do is make him remember you for the next time. And the game has changed a lot in that way.
You went to 5 Super Bowls. What an accomplishment. Tell me about it.
Well, you don't have time to think about it, Ron, when you're doing it. You are so busy working hard to get, how do I say this? So in football, you often hear the cliche, Ron, that you're not looking a week ahead. And it's so true. You can't. If you look ahead, you'll lose the game you're playing. You'll forget the guy you're going against. You're so busy in the rhythm of the season going against that week. I've got this guy and this scheme and these things that at the end of the week, you just go on to the next one. And before you know it, we're in the playoffs and now it picks up speed, it's more intense, but we just do that. The game is over at the end of the season. You're second out of 32 teams. It sucks you lost the game, but there's a lot of steam to blow off. You've been working hard for 10 months, 11 months to get to that point. You turn around and you do it again. And sure, you lose again. You're the second out of 32 teams. You blow off steam, you have a great party, you go back to work. In some ways, those 4 years are a blur because you're working so hard and you're so focused on your daily job that you almost have no time to truly enjoy how special they were until you retire. Once you retire, you can look back and go, whoa, that was quite the accomplishment. But in the moment, it's business as usual every week. And that's the only way to get through. And I have friends that have won 4 Super Bowls or won a Super Bowl here and there. And they feel the same way. You almost wish you could have enjoyed the moment more, but you were too busy working hard for the next one, for the next day, for the next opponent. It was a great run. Looking back, it was a lot more fun than it probably was during the time, only because now we can sit back and enjoy it.
Do you have any questions?
Well, I have a lot of questions, Ron. I see your Sabres fan. Who's your favorite Sabres player of all time?
My all-time favorite would have to be Daniel Briere.
Okay, Rob Ray, my buddy, is going to be a little upset about that, but that's okay. I was good friends with the Sabres. I had season tickets for 7 years when I was there. Rob Ray, Brad May, gosh darn, Barnaby and Pekka and Ken Sutton was an all-timer, and so many of those guys were just good people. I was good friends with them, loved them, and really I miss the days of going to hockey games up in Buffalo at the old Auden and the new stadium. But I loved hockey quite a bit. Tell me something, Ron. In the town of Buffalo's got a resurgence going. You know, it's obviously great to see the way things are going. If you had to think about Buffalo Bills, would you rather the Bills sign a great free agent, or would you rather see them? Well, that's not a good question. How about that? Who's the best free agent you can think that they could sign right now? Who would you like to see them sign?
That one guy from Seattle, Metcalf, or however you say his name.
Oh yeah, the wide receiver.
Yeah.
Big, thick wide receiver. Yeah, it's not a bad one. That's not a bad one. I'd love to see Gronk. For me, locker room's always the most important. And a guy who's been to that many Super Bowls, been a part of that many great teams, he can help your locker room a lot. You know, guys who know how to win and know what it takes week in and week out to win in the playoffs, that's important to have on your team. I think Gronk's one of those guys that could do it. You know, the fans, some people love him, some people don't, but he's a Buffalo guy. He's born and raised there. I knew Gronk when he went to the University of Arizona, which is where I went and where I've coached and where I live. So I knew him when he got here. He comes back everywhere. We talk. One of his top advisors was a teammate of mine in college, and we're good friends. Gronkowski is one of the smartest players in the NFL. And when I say that, not just football smarts, but business savvy and understanding it and knowing who he is. He's a great human being. He does really amazing things for friends and people that never get known because he doesn't seek the spotlight to say, look at what I'm doing. It's just who he is. He'd be great for the city of Buffalo. He'd be great for that locker room. And he'd be good for Josh Allen because a great tight end is your quarterback's best friend and your offensive line's best friend because he can help block, but yet he's always a good outlet for your quarterback. He's a guy that's impossible to put a man in coverage on that matches up well, because if you put a big guy on him that can help in the run game, now he's beating them down the field. If you put a little guy or a smaller guy that can match him down the field, you're going to give up the run game to him. So I think it's the best thing that happened to sign that guy.
Yeah, I think that like getting a bigger tight end or like someone that could open up the holes for your running back would be a good thing to do this year for the Bills.
They are going to need offensive line help in some way. I don't know exactly how, because I never like to say a guy can't. They got to upgrade here or there, because that's just not fair. Because as fans and the announcers too, we don't know the scheme. We don't know what their responsibilities are. There's too many times announcers might say, and there's one announcer who Buffalo doesn't like, who very often is wrong. He'll say he should have done this when he doesn't know the scheme. And you can't do that because we're not in those locker rooms. We're not on the practice field. The coaches know who the guys that can play are. So I just hope the coaches are heard by the front office, and the front office knows what they're doing enough to say, how can we really get help? Is it that we need offensive line help? Is it that we need a tight end? Another tight end, I should say, because I like Dawson. Is it, hey, we need D-line help? I'll tell you right now, Calais Campbell is going to be a free agent. That's another great locker room human. He was at the Cardinals for a long time. I worked for the Cardinals. That guy is amazing, and he can bring a lot of help. Particularly, you're going to get him kind of cheap, I think, at this stage in his career. Those are the type of guys that get you over the hump to win a title. The great unknown for most fans and the great unknown for most GMs and personnel guys are who are the locker room guys. Sometimes they can look at a production and say, well, we can get rid of him. And they do, but that's the guy that held the locker room together and the team goes south. I've seen it happen on several franchises. So it'll be interesting to see where the Bills go in free agency.
Do you have any other questions?
No, Ron, I want to thank you for having me be a part of your show. This is a lot of fun, man. Thanks for having me up. And if you ever need anything, you ever want to talk, you just let me know.
Thank you for coming on. It was fun talking to a former Bills player.
Well, thanks, Ron. You take care now.
Thank you for tuning into Let's Talk Someone Six Sports. Thank you to my special guest, Glenn Parker, and go Bills.
Go Bills.